Okay, Alex, this is for the Games Advertiser project, Unit 1, pre-production, and Unit 5, working to a brief. We're going to go through the Unit 5 P1, M1, D1 criteria. This is for understand the requirements of working to a brief, okay? So I'm going to ask you a few questions, and I want you to respond as best you can, okay? So the first section asks you to demonstrate that you recognise the nature of and demand implicit in the brief. By discussing the codes and conventions of games advertisements. So that's essentially asking what the actual brief is. So what is the brief?
Okay, the brief for Unit 1 and 5 is that a local production company has asked us to create a viral advert campaign using the gaming industry, and it will be appealing to the age of 16 and 35, male and females. The codes and conventions, I'll start off with the code. It's where what signs are we going to be using. The signs that we're using are teaser trailers and embedded codes through HTML, which is going to be on our official website. With the teaser trailers at the end, we're going to plant a QR code so it'll be frozen for about 10-15 seconds, which can lead up to our websites. For the connotations,
Conventions, yeah, what's normal?
Yeah, conventions. In a way, that makes our viral advert campaign quite unique and not really normal, because I haven't seen a viral advert campaign which has QR codes and embedded codes through HTML. So only particular people might search through that.
Okay, good. In terms of codes, you mentioned sort of coding in a sort of technical manner. In terms of like the theoreticals, what I was aiming for. So in terms of what signs are you going to be using to suggest your genre? What is your genre, and what sort of signs? Because codes can be interpreted both ways.
Okay.
But in terms of codes, what I mean is that a combination of signs. So what sort of signs are you going to be using to suggest a certain genre?
Okay, well, sort of our genre is going to be based around horror. The way that we're doing that is we are working on certain lighting techniques and like the silhouettes. Is that it?
Silhouettes, yeah.
And pretty much how our character has a dark side inside himself, and how we're doing that with lighting techniques, where as the main character has a really bright side on the left side of my face and slightly toned down on the right side. So even with one image, it can explain the mise-en-scène, so what each image is telling us about the main character.
Good. So you're looking to use mise-en-scène, and you're going to, through signs, tell people what the genre is as well. Excellent. Good. So that you've discussed the codes and conventions of the genre, and briefly what your actual game's idea is. Let's move on to negotiating the brief. So what have you taken from consultation with myself and Jane? What sort of tips have we given you at all? What have we taught you, if anything?
Well, during the lesson where we looked at Vertigo, I personally learned how you can just do a few different camera shots where it can mean a lot more, a big difference compared to another camera shot. I mean, in Vertigo there was about 5 or 6 shots of the camera zooming down to the building, then zooming back out, and it shows that the man is afraid of heights, and that's what he's seeing. So it's a point of view shot while zooming in and out at the same time.
Dolly zoom.
Dolly zoom, that's the word. Dolly zoom. So yeah, I've learned that. What else have I learned?
Any sort of tips or advice, any pointers that Jane or I have given you over the last 15 weeks or so?
Yeah, we did a lesson on camera, how to use flash, aperture, shutter speed, which was quite outperforming. I've got I think I've got really nice shots on.
Your group got the best shots, I think. It's a really good shot with the shutter speed in particular. So I think that's going to do you a good step, particularly at the high five one, for example.
Yeah.
So I think your group's got some really excellent photographers in the actual group, so I'm looking to see that in the actual adverts as well. Good. Right, so in terms of how have you interpreted the brief, because the brief is to make a viral campaign, as you've mentioned.
Yeah.
What are you going to be making in the viral campaign? Because that can be interpreted any way, really. So what are you actually going to be making?
Okay, what we're making is obviously a teaser trailer for Project Indigo, which is our project, of course. we have recently added in a fake character. We sort of made him up. He's going to be involved in our teaser trailer. It's going to be probably part 2 out of it, and his name is Duncan Cooper. We set up a Facebook page for him and a Twitter page for him. And Duncan Cooper is the journalist. And so during part 2 of our teaser trailer, you just hear his voice, and during the first, because he's a journalist, he does audio logs. So on the first audio log, he's going, I've got the locations from Project Indigo's website, I'm told to go to this location. Then later on the second audio log, he's heavy breathing, he's slightly scared, and a lot sort of changes between audio log 1 and audio log 2. And the final audio log is where he's screaming like running away from people who's chasing him when he doesn't even know why.
It's a great idea.
Yeah, so we're adding quite a lot of different things together with QR codes and our websites, but the main part is teaser trailer part 1 and part 2.
Good, good. So in terms of following conventions, are you doing something conventional or are you subverting conventions? What do you think?
We'll be I would say subvert conventions, because we're using quite a lot of different techniques for our advert campaign, and we're sort of just mashing them all up together. So, like as I said, teaser trailer, QR code, and audio logs.
Good. In terms of constraints, what's holding you back? Any legal issues holding you back at all?
The only legal issue that we had at the moment was we went to Southwest train stations at Basingstoke because we wanted to film a certain shot there, is where the main character just enters Basingstoke town, but unfortunately they said that we couldn't film at the time as a train goes by and as someone gets off the train and someone gets off the train. So at the moment we're trying to work our way around that and adapt to something else to do.
Okay. Okay. So, ethical issues. Are there any ethical issues you've encountered?
Not really, because we are all underage when we're going to do our advert campaign, but we haven't done anything that isn't really wrong. So no sex scenes or anything for it. It's just normal sort of way of doing a viral advert campaign.
It's not going to be sort of some viral campaigns, of course, use shock tactics.
Yeah.
So there's nothing at all that you're doing that might upset people.
No, it wouldn't offend anyone. Might make a few people jump, but that's the genre of a horror.
Absolutely. Good. In terms of regulatory, so that's who are the regulators of the games industry in terms of. So that's right, Peggy. So in the film you've got BBFC and you've got Peggy, of course, for the games industry. So what games Peggy rating would it be?
It will be 12, because 12 includes a little bit of violence, of fantasy nature, of course, gambling, sex scenes, and bad language. The two that we're using are just fantasy or violence, because it's a horror. It will have a little bit of scariness and maybe a little bit of fighting of it, because as the monster involved and the main characters try and run away from them. And bad language, because it is sort of realistic now, that if there's something scary coming after you, you don't say oh God anymore, you will tend to swear, but that's because you're afraid. So the other ones that we aren't using sex because it isn't involved, and gambling because that's nothing relevant with our viral advert campaign.
Okay, good. Lastly, opportunities. So what opportunities are there for self-development for you? What new skills are you going to learn in this project?
I'm going to carry on progressing with team building and carrying on, because what I normally do when I'm in team, I want to make sure that everyone sticks together and can show what they got, really. The new skills that I'll be learning will probably be camera work with aperture speed and camera shots. I guess acting as well, since I'm going to be the main character. So I'll be learning quite interesting new techniques.
Good. So you're good at teamwork anyway, I think. So in terms of new skills, I think camera shots, acting, so enhance your skills will be good. Excellent. Thank you very much, Alex.
No problem.
That's really good.
Later.